Today I'm going to show you how to utilize GreenSock's scrub feature to create two really cool scroll-based effects. One is animated in SVG line based on scroll position, and the other is creating a parallax scrolling effect on 3 gallery images. Now, the next part is very important. Coming on September 20th is the 1-week early access period for my upcoming course, Advanced Front Ends, where you will learn how to create really cool, modern, interactive, and animated front ends. So visit DesignCourse.com/AF to enter your email to be notified once it releases. All right, let's get started here. This is fairly straightforward. We just have, a pretty much empty, there's no HTML written here. In this document, we do import the GreenSock animation platform along with scroll trigger, along with Lennis smooth scroll. If you look at the YouTube description or wherever you're watching this, hopefully it's YouTube, whatever, you'll see the code pen. You can just grab this stuff in the settings of the code pen and you'll have access to that. And we're also getting the smooth scroll running. This is the boilerplate. Type in Lennis smooth scroll, go to GitHub, you'll see this exact code right there. And that right out of the gate gives us a nice smooth scroll. For this type of effect, it makes sense to do it. And so I know some people are like, oh, why are you importing all these libraries for a simple project? Well, this is just a very specific use case. It's not intention. This is not, like, who would make a website that's only this section? Some people have been arguing about that lately in the comments. It's like, come on, use your brains. Anyway, let's get started. We're going to write the HTML. It's super simple. And so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to have an empty section, and it's just going to be a height of 100 viewport height for each of these sections at the top. That way we could scroll into the effect, and then also at the bottom we can scroll out. And so additionally, we're going to have a section, and then we want to reference the middle one specifically for a scroll trigger. So we're going to give it a class of animated. Okay, inside of there, we're going to have an image, and we're going to have a source of pic1.jpg. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to paste these in just to save a little bit of time here. And so what this looks like is simply an image, pic1, 2, and 3.jpg. We do have a custom data attribute, which will allow us to control the parallax that's applied to each of the images. And we'll extrapolate this value here with JavaScript. It's very simple. And yeah, that's good right there. And then also we have our SVG element. If I show you here in Adobe Illustrator, I just use the type tool. I type scrub with the font BBoss Kai, I think it's called. And then when I take that type, I hit Control-Shift-O, not the letter, not the number 0, but O. That converts it to outlines. That's what you want. You also want to make sure it has no fill up here, and it does have a black stroke. At that point in time, you can go ahead and just go to File, Save As. Now, by the way, you could use any other vector application like Figma for this, for instance. You just want to save this as a SVG file and then hit Save. You're not actually going to save the file because all you have to do is hit SVG code, and there we go. We just copy all that crap, hit Cancel because we don't need to actually save it, and then we paste it in right there. Alrighty. So then we have a bunch of crap to get rid of. Like, we don't need this attribute. We don't need this comment. We don't need these attributes. Just get rid of almost all of them. There we go. All right, and we're ready to rock. Okay, so we're done with the HTML. If we look at the project currently, it's very boring. Has these big abstract images, and there's our scrub. So let's get the, there's only a few rule sets really. It's actually pretty simple. We take our sections, and we want to do a height of 100 viewport height with each of them. We want to do a max width of 1200 pixels. We're going to make this just for desktop here. Margin 0 auto will get it centered up horizontally. We're going to do display flex because we have 3 images decided that we want into 3 columns. And then we also want to justify content space between, so we have nice white space between them. We're going to do align items center to make sure they're vertically centered within the viewport, and then we're going to do gap of 4 M units. Oh, okay, that was a mouthful. So it still doesn't look all that good right now. We do have our smooth scroll working though. And then inside of here, we're going to reference our images specifically. I'm just going to make each one 300 pixels. Yeah, that was a crap all over the place. And then we're going to do a height of 500 pixels, and then just so they don't get distorted, we'll do object fit cover. All right, so we're doing pretty well now. It should look a lot better at this point. Okay, so scrub is over here because it's a normal part of the document flow. So let's go ahead and break it outside of that by referencing our SVG file. Because we want it to stick in the viewport, we're going to say position fixed. We'll do a width of 40% so it's not so massive. We're going to do a top of 50%, a left of 50%, and then finally transform translate. This is the way you center vertically and horizontally a position absolute or position fixed element is these 3 lines right here. All right, so let's go ahead and save that, and we should be pretty much ready to rock. And there we go. But we want these elements to basically move at different speeds. All right, now I am going to add another section at the bottom just so we have a little bit more to scroll past. So we have a section above and below. So how do we get these to move at different speeds? We do have the custom data attributes. Data speeds, this one's 0.5, this is 1 and 1.5. So what we want to do now that we have GreenSock and scroll trigger imported in our JavaScript, we're going to go ahead and get access to all those images. So we're going to say let images equals gsap utils.toArray img. Now, why wouldn't we use document.querySelectorAll? That's because it returns a node list instead of a true array. This little helper utility, toArray method, will basically take those and it'll do the work just to convert it to an actual array, which is easier to work with. That's pretty good right there. So now what we want to do is we're going to take our images and we want to iterate over them. So images for each. We pass in a reference to each image right there. And then we go ahead and we say gsap2, so it's a simple tween to to method, the image. And then we're going to do a y% of -100 times image.dataset.speed. All right, so where is that coming from? That is the custom data attribute. It's simply called and it's referenced as speed and not data hyphen because that gets omitted. But you do have to include this in order for this to be considered a custom data attribute that you can then access here in JavaScript. So just remember that. If you were to also call this like speed hyphen factor, then you would reference that in JavaScript with basically speed factor. Just like that. You remove the dash and then you capitalize the next letter. That is called camel case. Okay, just want to make sure you understood that. Additionally, we have ease of none because we're tying, this is a scrub based animation. We don't want weird easing or whatever. So then we're going to also put in a scroll trigger. And this is where we put in scrub image.dataset speed. All right, so let's save this and go back. There we go. Scroll down, and you can see they move at different speeds. The one with the higher value moves faster, 1.5. Okay, awesome. So now let's go ahead and get this SVG animation working. It's here in the browser, but we want it to come from nowhere, and then it'll show up fully here, and then when we scroll back out, it will go back to nowhere. All right, so in order to do that, let's go ahead and we're going to say let text equals gsap.utils toArray, and we're doing not SVG but rather st0 class. And that's because Adobe Illustrator applies a class to each of the letters called st0. So now we have that as an array. Very simple. We're also going to take our timeline that we just created. Oh wait, we didn't create the timeline yet. I'm being simple. We would need to create a timeline for this because we have it going from the full reveal back to no reveal. If you just had it just animating in and it just stayed there, you just use a simple tween and not a timeline. A tween being a to from or from to call. So what we're going to do is say let timeline equals gsap.timeline, and we put a scroll trigger in the timeline itself. We're going to make this trigger based on the animated section, which is in the middle. The start is going to be top center. So the top of the target element reaches the center of the viewport, and it's going to be bottom and bottom. You can play around with these values. I did a video on them specifically on scroll trigger. Do a search on my channel for scroll trigger. Now scrub, when we set scrub, that means the animations that are tied to this timeline are going to be based on the scroll position rather than a duration. Very important. So we can also give this a numerical value, meaning after we're done scrolling, it will take a second for it to catch up. I'm going to do it for 2 seconds. Okay, now this doesn't actually do anything because we're not choosing any elements yet to animate. So we have to create some calls. So TL2, for instance, we're going to take our text, which we created above, and we say stroke dash array 470. Now, 470 happens to be the value. And by the way, this is a CSS property in camel case. That's how you reference it in JavaScript. It's a value where the lines are long enough to completely complete the scrub type, essentially. So we're going from that. And then we also have a stroke dash offset. These are the two values that you want to work with in order to create this SVG line animation. So I had to experiment with this number to find what it would be. And then we're going to have a second 2 that is called, where we simply change the stroke dash offset to 470. I believe we could just get rid of this stroke dash array. Now, if we save this, I'm fairly certain it's not going to work properly as we want it to. We need to go to our main Sass file and just one more rule set. We have to reference the SD0 class and put stroke dash array 470 and stroke dash offset 470. So we're going to go back and, oh, okay. So it kind of appears to work there. Ah, there you go. You have to refresh. Okay. So now that's exactly what we wanted. That's what I wanted at least. Let me get rid of this over here. I imagine, having you scrolling down into a section, maybe on a landing page, it will reveal some sort of SVG line animation. It could be text. It could be whatever you want it to be. It could be a picture of a pig or something. I don't know. And it will just kind of animate into place and then animate out with these interesting, gallery images kind of sliding at different speeds. What's really cool about all these animations is the one thing that ties them together is the fact that both of them, the gallery and the SVG, are set up to use Scrub, which is really cool. We have Scrub right here for this timeline animation for the SVG, and also Scrub right here for the images. So hopefully now you're able to you utilize one more thing that's in your front-end developer toolkit for creating really cool interactive front ends. Make sure to check out DesignCourse.com for my UI UX course, my CSS course, and the very upcoming advanced front-end courses where I really tackle all of this stuff and way more from scratch and all the way to complex examples. Again, that's going to be at DesignCourse.com/AF for advanced front ends. Enter your email to be notified when the pre-launch releases. I will see you all soon, and goodbye.